Everyone. When I announced my plans on Facebook to take this rabbinic position at Agudis and move to San Antonio back in April, I received a surprising message on Facebook. It was from a friend I had made back in summer of 2012, who was my roommate when I studied abroad in London at Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. That was back when I was cool. Anyway, he wrote me that he had moved to San Antonio from Dallas a couple years ago, and that he'd love to meet up with me when I arrived. So this week, he made good on his offer, and we got lunch. The two of us caught up on life and what had been going on for us over the last decade or so since we'd seen each other, reminisced about the exciting adventures of that summer in 2012, and talked about all the benefits of San Antonio living. At a certain point, though, we ended up taking a detour, and my friend brought up the issue of people not being able to respectfully engage with each other across differences. On this topic, he quoted the preeminent Rabbi, his mother, who he said always attributed the problem to people doing too much tolerating and not enough respecting. Toleration, while sometimes necessary with difficult people, often family members, has a negative resonance, implying that the best we can do is to put up with someone. Respect, on the other hand, is active, something you must cultivate through listening with compassion and understanding how people came to their perspective. But our Parshat story begins not with toleration or respect, but the opposite, with intolerance and a desire to get rid of a whole people altogether. The king of Moab, Balak, hires the best non-Israelite prophet around, Balaam, to curse the Israelites, which famously concludes unsuccessfully as God places only blessings in Balaam's mouth. The most famous of those blessings, as we noted today, is of course Ma tovu o alecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. How good are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. This blessing found in our Parsha is known most in our liturgy from its recitation when you enter a house of worship, a Beit Knesset, acknowledging their beauty and the beauty of the services that happen within them. I myself said this special verse with an extra kavana, extra intention, upon entering the sanctuaries of Agudis for Minyan during my first week on the job. These spaces are indeed beautifully designed for bringing God into our midst. However, in a famous teaching in the Talmud in Masechet Bava Batra 60a, the Gemara claims that what Bilam saw was not the sanctuaries of Israel, but rather their actual tents. The Gemara asks, what was it that Bilam saw that so inspired him to say these words? He saw that the entrances of their tents were not aligned with each other, ensuring that each family enjoyed a measure of privacy. And he said because of that, these are worthy of having the divine presence rest on them. The arrangement of the Israelite camp, according to this interpretation, answers the question, what is so great about their tents? Aren't tents, by definition, kind of simple and unadorned? The answer, according to the Talmud, is that it's not really the tents themselves at all that inspire Bilam's blessing, but it's the way that they're used. They are staggered in such a way to allow for human dignity in a situation where human dignity can so easily be lacking. Setting up camp in various places could have left the Israelites to put up their tents haphazardly, with the main consideration being getting their tents up at all. I know I've been there when I've gone camping. The Israelites, however, made the extra effort to make sure their tents were set up in such a way that they would maintain family privacy and thereby human dignity. That level of respectful forethought for Bilam showed their worthiness for God to dwell amongst them. However, a Hasidic text takes this interpretation to a more metaphorical realm. The Maggid of Mezrich, who's one of the great teachers of Chassidut and a student of the Baal Shem Tov himself, he drew on this Gemara, but imagines the tents in Bilam's blessing as representing human beings. He transforms the image of the tents in a given formation to that of students of Torah sitting in a circle, each offering their interpretation of a given piece of text. Now, if they offer their Torah in a competitive spirit, saying, "My interpretation is better than yours," they bring shame on themselves. However, if they offer their differing understandings all to enhance the greatness and beauty of Torah, then it is a credit to them and to their spirits. But what has this got to do with Ma Tovu? Well, the Maggid finds a link between the staggered tent openings in the Gemara with another meaning of petach, opening, which can refer sometimes in the Torah to the opening of the mouth. Thus, for him, the idea of staggered openings means each student of Torah allows space for others to speak and offer their own interpretation without trying to have their voices directly opposing each other, fighting for who has the better interpretation. Instead, everything they argue is for the sake of heaven, not for winning petty personal victories. It is this trait that makes the people fitting for the divine presence to rest on them. How do we cultivate healthy debate and different interpretations of reality? How do we avoid the worst pitfalls of engaging with others of different perspectives and opinions? In a world where winning an argument often takes precedence over the value of the discussion, how do we give ourselves the intention to understand that an issue or a topic is bigger than the egos of the people arguing about it? How do we let God into our disagreements? Well, I think the first step is acknowledging the godliness of the person sitting across from us. We must enter into any debate thoughtfully, maybe even cautiously, remembering the primacy of the issue itself and not that of our personalities. If we feel our emotions taking control of us, we need to take a breath and step back from the heat of the moment, and maybe even be willing to step back from the discussion itself for the time being. Yet, the Maggid still teaches us that engagement in matters of Torah, of issues important to life and to the world, must happen. We cannot always avoid talking about uncomfortable things or avoid sharing different perspectives. The Torah, life, requires us to engage in the conversation, but to do so with thoughtfulness, intention, and generosity of spirit. The cultivation of this ability is a lifelong project, and it is not solely a project just for individuals alone. A healthy community or a family must be able to speak through disagreements and end them with deep respect for the people who feel or think differently than you. This, I think, is what my friend's mother was speaking about when she spoke of respect and not simply tolerance. Tolerance has its role in certain situations in life, but respect is the higher standard that we aim for. May we, as a community and as individuals, be blessed to be able to share our perspectives and to listen across our differences, doing so for the sake of heaven, allowing us all to grow in Torah and in wisdom. Shabbat Shalom.